In the dark and mysterious landscape of true crime, few cases have captured the public's imagination quite like the unsolved murder of Elizabeth Short, better known as the Black Dahlia. The story is a blend of brutal violence, unrelenting media obsession, and a string of shocking, mysterious theories. To this day, the case remains one of the most famous unsolved murders in American history. It all began on January 15th, 1947, in Los Angeles, California. The body of a young woman was found, severed in half, lying on a vacant lot near the Limerick Park neighborhood. What made the crime even more disturbing was not just the brutal nature of the murder, but how the body had been posed. The woman's body was drained of blood, her organs carefully removed, and her body expertly bisected at the waist. She had been placed in a seated position, with her hands resting on her legs, as if she had been put there deliberately. At first, police had no idea who this woman was. The body was unrecognizable, but within hours, an identification was made. Her name was Elizabeth Short. She was just 22 years old. The public soon learned that Elizabeth had lived a troubled and transient life. Originally from Boston, she had moved to California in the hopes of becoming an actress. Like many young women who arrived in Hollywood, she dreamed of fame, but her life was far from glamorous. Elizabeth Short spent time in Los Angeles, hopping between various apartments, working low-paying jobs to support herself, and dating several men who would later come forward as witnesses. She was a mysterious figure, a young woman who seemed to be searching for something that remained elusive. Little did she know she would become the victim of one of the most horrific and enduring crimes in American history. The media quickly latched onto her story. Newspapers began publishing headlines that painted Elizabeth Short as a tragic figure. The media dubbed her the Black Dahlia, a name inspired by a popular 1940s movie noir called The Blue Dahlia. The word black was added to reflect her dark, straight hair and her penchant for wearing black clothing. The nickname stuck and became synonymous with the case, overshadowing her true identity and reducing her to a media sensation. As the investigation into her murder unfolded, shocking details began to emerge. Elizabeth's body had been meticulously cleaned, and there were no signs of struggle or defensive wounds. This led police to believe that the killer had a degree of control over the situation. The careful nature of the dissection hinted at a level of planning and precision that was unsettling. But perhaps the most disturbing part of the story came next. It wasn't just the brutality of the crime or the grisly details. It was the media frenzy that followed. Elizabeth Short's murder became an obsession. The press bombarded the public with sensationalized reports and theories. Speculation ran wild, with every new headline offering a fresh angle on the mystery. At one point, it seemed like anyone and everyone was a suspect. Hundreds of potential leads came in, but none led to concrete evidence. The police received multiple phone calls from individuals claiming to know the killer, some even calling themselves the murderer, but each lead fizzled out, leaving no clear answers. And then there were the bizarre letters. Shortly after the discovery of Elizabeth's body, the Los Angeles Examiner received a letter from someone claiming to have information about the case. The letter writer described knowing details of the crime that had not been made public, further deepening the mystery. The letter also contained a disturbing phrase: "Here is Dahlia's belongings. They will be back in the morning." But no such belongings were ever found. It wasn't long before the police began to look into a number of possible suspects. One of the most intriguing theories was that the killer was a well-known figure, perhaps someone close to Elizabeth. Some believed that Elizabeth had been involved in an affair with a prominent person in Hollywood or even a member of the military, but no one knew for sure. As the investigation dragged on with no arrests, the media continued to fuel public speculation. One name in particular emerged repeatedly: George Hodel. Hodel was a prominent doctor living in Los Angeles at the time, and he was later implicated by his own son, Steve Hodel, who became convinced that his father had been the killer. Steve Hodel, a former Los Angeles police detective, claimed to have uncovered startling evidence that linked his father to the Black Dahlia murder. He pointed to a number of disturbing connections. George Hodel's known association with other criminal activity, his behavior around the time of the murder, and even a series of photographs that Steve believed showed his father in close proximity to Elizabeth Short before her death. Hodel's theories have been the subject of much debate. And while there is